Good morning, everybody.
Now, so I have to stop speaking about what we were
Good
talking
morning. Thank you all for coming out. I know it was a little chaotic, but we're all nice and close. We're family now. So I appreciate you guys being here. My name is Luke. I'm a designer and animator that's here, and I guess now printmaker. I've been here for about 2 years and have started this. This is our 4th event. Well, I guess it's our 3rd event because we had the one that was canceled, but thank you all for being here. Next event, I'll get to that in a bit, but please bring a friend. I heard about Creative Mornings through friends. Most of you probably heard about it through word of mouth. But it's a nice community. It's larger than just the one here in Savannah, so bringing people in is always welcome. We have some volunteers. It's grown a little bit since the last one. We have Oren, who's kind of our day of volunteer. Noah is our photographer. Mariah is kind of helping me plan the logistics of everything. Kristen is our social media strategist. And then Robert, who's back there, is going to be hopping in for video in the next couple of months. Yes, so November 15th at the Davenport House Museum, the Kennedy Pharmacy building.
It'll say pharmacy on the front of the building. You're going to be like, this isn't the Davenport House. That's a pharmacy. Just walk in. You'll be in the right place.
Yeah, Kristen knows because she works there. We're going to be in the back spot of it. We'll direct you when we get there. It's a beautiful space. Danielle, who's the museum director there, is going to be speaking on the theme, which I think is thread and community. So that's going to be a great event. Highly recommend you. You'll be able to sign up for it on the 29th, which leads me to the next thing. Adobe is going to be here on the 29th, which is going to be a fantastic event. Creative Mornings, this chapter was actually born out of this event last year. 250 people showed up, and I was like, where the heck are all of you guys? And from that event, people wanted to do more creative meetups, and so Creative Mornings was born from that. Highly recommend it. It's free. You don't have to even be an Adobe member. Just register. I'll post a link later on today on our Instagram bio that you can sign up and register for that. Creative Mornings is like I was saying earlier, it's larger than just Savannah. It's a very big organization. There's 238 chapter cities around the country, around the world rather. 69 countries represented. There's over or around more than 27,000 attendees per month. Currently, there's 12,000 talks online and over 13 million views in videos. So it's a large organization that we're happy to be a part of. Besides monthly events, Creative Mornings also has something called field trips. You can go on to creativemornings.com, and I think it's /field trips. Yeah, it's right there. And they have online lectures. They have online workshops that are all free. Eden, chill, dude. This month's theme is vision. I don't remember the chapter off the top of my head, but if you go on the Instagram post that has this, there's more information about that. Every month, there's a theme that is chosen by someone in the global community, and then that's chosen for the rest of the year. So we're already getting into planning next year's events, which is absolutely insane. Creative Mornings has a manifesto. This is something that we, as a community, try to live by, try to be inclusive and welcoming. It starts off as everyone is creative. A creative life requires bravery and action, honesty and hard work. We are here to support you, celebrate with you, encourage you to make the things that you love. We believe in the power of community. We believe in giving a damn. We believe in face-to-face connections, in learning from one another, in hugs and high fives. We bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose, confident that they will inspire one another and inspire change in the neighborhood and cities around the world. Everyone is welcome. Everyone is creative. We're so blessed to have Liz here today as our speaker. If you don't know, Liz does way too many things around town, but somehow manages to do all of them and all of them really well. Kirby managed to make this connection, so I'm grateful for you for making this happen. Also, I don't know, Pat, if you want to talk a little bit about what's going on here. I know you have other events and stuff.
Oh, sure. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome to With Love. I worked at a bunch of tough guy tattoo shops coming up, and I never really was a tough guy. I'm a girl dad. I don't know.
Same.
The toughest thing I do is ride a skateboard. I don't know, and not very well anymore. But I wanted to open a shop that my dream was always to open a shop that was a little bit more community driven, less cool guy, non-inclusive driven. I always felt like I was in this boys club that was very gatekeepy, and every time somebody came in that wasn't macho, or hopped off a motorcycle, flicked a cigarette, and came in hungover, felt super intimidated. So, and there are some women-owned shops, all women shops that have been really progressive in the community, but as a standard issue middle-aged white dude, I wanted to be the guy that opened a shop that felt like everyone could come in. So we went with Grandma Chic, which is apparently my favorite style of decor. And I opened as a private studio first. It was like 120 square feet, and that crushed me into a little diamond. So I needed a lot more square footage. And in March, set this up. We had our grand opening. We've done collaborative projects with Two Ties with Liz and James. We've done stuff with Planned Parenthood. We're doing an event next week with Coastal Pet Rescue. So getting the opportunity to involve ourselves in collaborative projects, nonprofit projects, fundraising projects, makes us more than just a tat shop where you can come get a Jagger Rose, Panther, Eagle. You can get whatever the hell you want, and not feel judged for it, not feel like you're stupid for bringing your idea to us. We have a lot of SCAD kids that come through that obviously is a rotating door, thousands of students annually, but we have locals in the community, young professionals, families that decided to stay after school, people that moved here for the military, and this space was just to welcome all and not to feel any tougher than the rest of the tough guys out there.
Yeah. And you have something going on later today?
Yeah, at 11 I'm doing tiny tattoos under 1 inch.
Oh yeah. So if anybody wants tiny tattoos after 1 inch, stick around.
Yeah.
Pat was going to be our speaker last month before the hurricane blew through, but we'll schedule him in for something next year. And yeah, that's kind of my spiel for stuff. Casey, I can pass it over to you. That's Casey. Casey's behind you.
Casey, you can go
Liz,
too,
the
if
big
you want.
button is the next.
Okay.
And then the other one goes back.
Yeah, you're good.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Hello. I'm Liz. I own Two Tides Brewing Company, which is located a few blocks away in the Starland District. It has been a while since I've had to kind of pause and think about what would I talk about if someone asked me about what I do or anything like that. So I made a presentation thinking, I looked when I saw all the invites on the list too. I went through and kind of saw what everyone does. And I was like, oh, what could I do that kind of would be something that people can kind of take home with them or learn something or would want to talk about. But please interrupt or ask questions because I don't know, I'm better at more of a conversation environment versus just presenting. But yeah, let's see. So when obviously the concept of vision was very broad and I was trying to think about what to talk about. And so I just put a little screen. That's what I had posted on my Instagram story. Okay, what should we talk about? And a lot of, I was looking at who voted and, it was my mom and my aunt and all these pieces. This is but those people aren't here either. So like I said, please interrupt and if you don't, but I thought, I was trying to think, obviously overall vision with starting Two Ties, people ask me about that a lot. But some things that I've noticed that I think the community is kind of working with as a whole, or maybe even struggling with, or ask me a lot of questions about, is how to have vision or consistency across multiple brands or people who are trying to open more businesses. And then there's a lot of markets, especially in Savannah, there's just a huge saturation of creatives here. There's this, my industry, food and beverage is crazy oversaturated here. So I usually get a lot of questions about that too. How do you stand out as a brand or get people to come into your business, or how do we let people know what we're doing? And then every now and then too, I get some questions too about just how to bridge that gap between getting an art school degree and then how to like pay your bills with that. But that was, the lowest. So I kind of chose to focus on the oversaturated market concept, but like truly, let's just, I don't know, whatever y'all want to talk about. Cool. So I moved here in 2013. I've been here, originally moved to go to SCAD, where I got an art degree, and probably the most boring degree you can get from an art school, which is advertising, which is very useful. But everyone, oh wow, like, did you get your degree in painting? Or no, it was advertising. And while in school, I did a few internships, and then when my brief professional career directly related to my degree, I worked with brands and clients, mainly focusing on everything online. So I graduated SCAD in 2016. I spent a lot of time in undergrad. And when I was in school, social media was still very new in terms of the advertising realm. Like Instagram was still those weird, obscure, blurry photos of like tile or just like the sky, or, I don't know, it was more personal use. So they had just started introducing Instagram advertising and even allowing brands to be on Instagram. So that was kind of a really interesting time. And that's where, I kind of hopped on that bandwagon, and that's where I spent most of my professional career, which has been very, very helpful with navigating Two Tides. Now I'm, like I said, I'm the co-owner and brand director of Two Tides. So I won't, completely read all of this, but just a little bit more, I guess, about my experience before and what led me to make some of the decisions I have made at Two Tides. In my professional career, I worked with a lot of big brands whose goal was or their kind of mantra was telling people that they should change themselves. So I worked with Special K cereal. I even worked for like a car vehicle wrap company called Orifal, which is all about like spending your money in like really frivolous ways. So a lot of the brands I worked with, it was all like, you don't have enough. You have to like fit this into your lifestyle, even if it's not necessarily obtainable for you. And to me, it was really challenging to get people on board with those brands, and also to kind of like feel good about the work I was doing, constantly telling people to be on diets and all that kind of stuff. And then sometime in college, I can't really remember what the exact application was, but someone had told me that, throughout the creative process, a really strong creative idea won't ask people to go completely out of their way to change something about them or their daily habits, or just how tricky that can be. And that kind of broken kind of quote, I can't really remember the application, it's just kind of stuck with me. Or like, an example I could think of is like during the app craze. I did some work on like everyone, there's an app for that. Everyone was making apps. And a lot of those failed because people are so habitual and so focused on, stuff that's familiar to them, that asking someone to completely go out of their way to like use this entirely new product that, isn't inherently already there. Just like how tricky that is. And so that's kind of like a really niche quote, but that's like, I think about it all the time. Like with branding, like how can we fit whatever we're doing into everyone's daily lives and kind of be a part of their lives and be this like comforting, inviting place. Then Two Tides. So a little bit more about that business. We opened in 2018, and I co-own it with my husband James. But it's still under the Two Tides umbrella for a lot of reasons, but it's a different concept. And we've said, we specialize in. We kind of call ourselves a beverage company these days, but really anything. So sour, haze, funk, stouts, all those kinds of beers, and espresso. And we've kind of just focused on the fact of being small. And that's kind of been our whole thing. Like, we're a family-run business. It's small releases. It's a lot of releases, et cetera. I don't know how well you can see that, but I tried to include a fun picture of just like all the different brands. So Two Tides, Small Bar, Crispy, and then the new coffee company. And so I tried to kind of think, okay, like back to vision and the overall concept of Two Tides and why we opened Two Tides. So originally we opened Two Tides because we thought something was missing in Savannah. And I know it's sometimes hard for me to talk about that as a whole, because at the end of the day, like, it's just beer. Like we're selling alcohol to people. But I think, when at the very core of that, my husband and I, we would go out all the time, like, oh man, like this, like we love all these places. I love supporting all these local businesses, but there's not this one place that does this one thing for us. And so we decided to open a place that made drinks that we ourselves wanted to drink and hosted events that we ourselves wanted to attend. And overall, we've been really lucky that everyone has responded to that as much as they have. Yeah, like I said, this business has been the exact opposite of everything that I have marketed before, which is really refreshing. And it also makes it, not feel like work. Like I'm posting things in my brand voice. We're making products, that like we have in our home. And so it just kind of takes that pressure off of trying to constantly reach out to different people in hopes that they come in. Yeah, and I guess overall with branding, we tried sticking with a theme at first. If everyone asks like, well, what does 2 tides mean? We went off a coastal theme. There's 2 tides per day. And in the very beginning, we, all the beers had, water themed, and then that we kind of pigeonholed ourselves there because then it felt like work. I'm up at midnight looking through like ocean glossaries and things like that. So that's not working. So then we pivoted and we're like, okay, well maybe, the space and stuff like that kind of plays on the tides and the moon, and that then we pigeonholed ourselves there, and that wasn't working. So then we even opened it up further and kind of went back to that whole concept, of just like being approachable, and started adding things like pop culture references and all that kind of stuff, and that really took off as well. We're really big on nostalgia, and I think that's something too that's really important in terms of how we operate, or just our whole marketing perspective. Because even though, like I said, it's just alcohol, like even so, we do. I always say we do beer, and then we do crazy beer. But even like beer can be crazy nostalgic. Oh man, like my dad drank lagers all the time, or this tastes like the beer. And my grandpa used to drink beer like this. And then we're like, okay, well, how do we kind of hop on trends or follow trends and do new and exciting stuff? It's like, okay, well, let's do sour beers and beer that doesn't taste like beer. But then, okay, how do we make it nostalgic? Well, let's put candy in it, because that's, everyone can kind of, no matter who you are, can relate to like childhood candy or themes, and then I think that's kind of where our brand has kind of been focused, I think, over the last few years, is just creating like a comforting space, whether it's like something crazy on the, like I said, with marshmallow or candy, or it's just something really classic. So
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about, was it challenging, or what was it like to go from marketing other people's brand and big companies' brands to doing it for yourself? Like, was that difficult, or?
I think, oh man. I think at first it was not crazy difficult to get it started, because I knew I had the whole foundation. So, okay, you have the basics. A brand needs an Instagram, you need a brand voice, you need a logo, you need to figure out your target audience, all of that kind of stuff. I think what is hard for me is feeling creative, being in the position I am, or finding ways to still be inspired after all this time. Because when I was, I don't know if it's like kind of the best answer either, but when I was working for corporations and other brands, I would come into work and the client would say, I need you to do this, and it's all laid out on a piece of paper, and I need it by this day, and I need it to perform this way. And it was easy, and then you would get to go home and turn your brain off after you fulfilled those goals. And I think that has been the biggest gap for me, is trying to not completely destroy my love for marketing and what I do by getting run down in all of like the day-to-day operations. I think, and then just even having the time to keep up with trends is really challenging as well, because on top of, I don't even open TikTok. I don't, that like, there's all these other new things. And I think that's kind of one of the scary things too, like in the market now, like as all these brands grow, or there's, hundreds of places in Savannah that are doing, kind of what we do, at least in terms of just drinks and all that kind of stuff. And there's, a whole generation too of people that aren't necessarily even drinking, or I hardly even drink these days myself. So trying to find ways to stay relevant and branch out and not be too scared to try new platforms or new types of marketing or new campaigns and things like that. I don't know. Did that answer that at all?
No,
kind of. Yeah. I think I don't know. The basics are always there. I think, I still use a lot of email marketing. I still, I update all of our events on our website. I still use Facebook. I think I try to, even though there is something new out there, to not ignore all of the audiences that have always been around. So even if I try to grow, I don't just kind of like pivot to the whole new thing. So it's nice to just be able to, we still rely on that all tried and true marketing from the beginning too. Yeah. I don't know. I also ramble a lot. It's just not. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'm curious about the nostalgia because I assume you're probably millennial.
Yeah.
So like the nostalgia connects.
And so I think it's really important to hop onto trends and follow what is selling. But I think at the same time you have to kind of like carve out your own niche as well, because then why would someone come to your place if they're already getting that somewhere else? I don't know. Is that helpful too? Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. Like
Yeah.
You have, like you said, you have the overarching nostalgia theme, but it doesn't get too specific. And then you still have other ways of connecting with a broader audience and thinking about how to appeal to not just this.
Yeah, and I think something that helps, we've tried to just, as Two Tides grows, truly make it a place where even if you don't drink alcohol, like there is something for you at the brewery. So my goal, we get so many bachelorette parties, or even parents just even bringing their kids into the brewery, which is like a kind of crazy thing. And it's like, okay, I never want, a group of 6 to come in and there's that one person that can't have anything. So we open the food truck, we do a bunch of non-alcoholic beverages, we open the coffee shop in the tap room, we have the seltzer bar downstairs. We always kind of call it like the campus, which is like a cheese, but trying to just like keep people there. And that's, I think, what's been working, which is incredibly challenging, having to create different brands or pivot so much or learn so many different things all the time. But I think that I think is what kind of sets us apart a little bit as well. Like moving, I love all the other breweries in town, but I think there's definitely been a pivot from that, like, oh, we're going to a brewery in a warehouse. Like, I think people are asking more of brands and wanting to, because I just be approachable to everyone too, kind of like what Pat said. Yeah. About his shop. Yeah.
That was my experience in where I went to go axe throwing.
Oh, yeah.
The brewery didn't have anything non-alcoholic, even root beer.
Yeah, and I think, yeah.
Right. It was just like, oh, the water's over there.
Yeah. And I think that's...
So many people that don't drink. This was 3 years ago now, but so it's probably changed.
And I think that's really challenging as a creative person too. It's like you open this business and you think, okay, this is exactly how I want it to be. I'm in control of everything. This is what we're going to make. But then, you have to also be able to follow sales trends. And so, I can put, my favorite kind of beer is mixed culture beer. And that beer takes like years to make. And it's like this huge labor of love. You put it in barrels. You're like putting all this like these crazy expensive ingredients in it. You're normally working with local farmers and putting fruit in it. But over, the last few years, like that style of beer does not sell anymore. People will buy a bottle of that and save it for a special occasion, and leave it in a closet and then not come back to your brewery for a year after they drank the first one. And so even though that is my style of beer, if I only made that style of beer, I would be out of business. And so I think even just the understanding that at some point, like your brand isn't even yours anymore. It's your customers. It's the people that are shopping there and buying things from you. And you have to be able to, so we have frozen, we have slushies, we have, And I think,
I have one, or a doctor will ask you, do you drink or have only one beer? Well, because of my medication, one beer can mean something like water, like Miller Lite, or something like a craft beer that's like way, and so it can change over. So I have to be careful. So me going over there, I'm like, I had one beer, now I need something different. You don't have anything for me. So that issue on that.
Yeah, I'm a part. I see like there's just like so many Facebook groups out there, and I see so many people like bashing things like slushies or frozen drinks. Like, oh, I would never, like that's like so like disrespectful to the beer product and like the time that I am a brewer. I don't, all those things. And I, at the end of the day, like you have to not take yourself so seriously, or you do risk running like yourself out of business. And so I think that's where, and that I think applies to a lot of different industries too. Like you have to, I guess, be humble enough to where, at some point, where if you've put yourself out there and you're creating a product that people are responding to, and then they start responding to something different, and I guess that's a kind of a personal choice on how you want to where you want to take your brand, but at least in terms of the hustle of staying around.
Sorry to interrupt. Then talking about like Budweiser, and then we went to Bud's Mackenzie, and then the whole backlash on us. Okay, me being a little kid, and I'm wearing a big tux, went to the Texas, state fair since I've been a little kid. When the Budweiser horses or whatever came into town, I was the only single very old woman there, and I told the man like a little kid, can you please take multiple pictures, because I have had a picture with the Budweiser Clydesdales forever. So you can still stay with, so depending on how the brand works as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah, just trying to like grow with your audience too.
Figure out what your audience is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wrote famous on nostalgia. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what I did.
Another one was at the last slide.
No, I hadn't. I think I had more.
Sorry about that.
I probably had like so many pages of just, yeah.
Question.
Yeah.
What's like the inspiration to do a new venture, and then also how do you manage the other ones while also trying to do?
Yeah, I think
This seems a
we've kind of told ourselves no more projects, and then I'll be driving around, look at that building, and my James is like, no, don't look, don't look at it anymore. I think obviously we try to kind of like stay in our lane in terms of beverages. I'm not trying to do anything that's kind of like outside of our scope. But I think really one of the most important things for us has been just the team we have, and hiring people with different skills and being able to let go of control and let those people that we've hired do their job and be able to make mistakes just like we allow ourselves to do. And that's probably one of the most challenging things. I think I tried, as our brand grows, my job turns more and more into just emails or like conflict resolution, or, I always say I have one 4.5-year-old son, but I also have 30-year-old kids as well that are like my age, which is really interesting too. But I think truly it sounds really cheesy, but it's the people. And I think if you do choose to grow your brand, having trusted people and truly trusting them to get stuff done is the only way to do it. But I think in terms of like how we come up with the ideas for those brands, it's really just like what, sometimes it's a mix of, I saw that other company doing that, I think that that's cool too, but also just what our customers are asking for, and what I talked about earlier about not being scared to pivot. And just a lot of that is James too. He is an extremely like technical, I guess, creative person, to where he, I'm going to learn how to distill this week. And so I'm glad that I have that kind of business partner as well, whose brain works in that way to be able to grow, or I'm going to learn how to roast coffee this week, like that kind of thing. But then I've been able to, all of our brands operate in the same way. Most of them have a very similar brand voice. Some of them are, they're all going back to that core overarching umbrella of Two Tides and what I've established there. And we try to use similar brand colors. We try to, but I think it's also important to give all those little projects an identity, because it just keeps it exciting and, gives something for those people, who don't drink beer to kind of like have their own brand relationship, I guess, with that venture. Yeah. Did that answer that question? Yes. Okay. I'm trying to remember what else I had. I don't need to read all of this. I think like just back to the oversaturated market, to me, it's been really important to, while trying to stay on top of trends, to try to find a unique need and concept, but not just piggybacking off of what everyone else does. Because I think that's where people really get in trouble in oversaturated markets. Like, I went to this one place a block away from my business and they were doing this thing and it was crazy successful. We should do that exact same thing too. And I think you can use those ideas to launch new creative ideas or as inspiration, but I think that's where people get kind of trapped, because that one business a block away that had a similar customer base is already filling that need, and now you're trying to just replicate that exact need elsewhere, and it's really in a town this small, small too. It's challenging to, like, those same people are so habitual, they don't want to go to, the same event every single time. So that's something we've been, trying to just take those pop culture trends, take the nostalgia, take all that, but then still just put our own twist on it. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so then I thought just also things like in the market that we do try to do that I think helps us stand out is not just focusing on the things that we sell. I spend a lot of time focusing on obviously trying new products like I talk about, releasing more like lifestyle items. Like we have a huge merch line. Even just our sticker sales alone, like pay our rent. It's crazy, like not to like overlook like all of those little things. Collaborations with other businesses that aren't necessarily even in our industry. Like I said, promoting the people, not just what we sell. Having events, product photography, I think is crazy important. And then like I mentioned earlier, our team. I think I was trying to think of those things of like what helps you stand out in a market like that. And that's what we've had the most success with. Yeah.
Is your product photographer on staff?
He is.
Because you guys, I mean, that's one of the...
Yeah, so we've, over the years, I think that's something too that I've struggled with. Like in the very beginning, I was doing it. And then as our team grew, that's something that I had to kind of make peace with and part with, is literally turning over my entire, what people perceive of my brand, like to another person. And that was, when we went through for different, not like, because people weren't doing it right, but it took us a long time to find someone that had the time and could like work like that. That's a huge financial commitment too, having someone else on the team like that as well. So it took us a long time to kind of find that right person that could work for us. So right now, Mike Schalk does 90% of our photography, and we have him on a contract. And so he basically, I pay him like a weekly amount, and every Monday we sit down and I'm still very involved in like the art direction, but it's also really nice having another creative person to pivot ideas off of. And so I'll make, a big list of, okay, this is what we have going on amongst all these brands. Like, what should we focus on this week? What could we, this is what we need to sell, but like, what could we throw in there that's more fun, and, other photos and, yeah. So I think that our brand was doing I think to me, the photography has been one of the biggest things that has set us apart from other breweries in our industry, and even just like nationally as well. Like I think that most of the time when I'm anywhere in our industry or going to anything, the first thing people comment on are the photos, and that it was a very risky and hard step to like I said, to take, because I'm literally putting my entire brand image into someone else's hands in that way. But it's been I think attributed to almost over 50% of our successes because of the way that it looks on the internet. And that's kind of that's a really interesting place to be in too, as a brand. Like, I don't know, we got, one of our posts got like mistakenly flagged or something last week. Not even gonna go into those details. I just posted that we were having a cellar sale, which means like bottles from your cellar, and our post got taken down. And then I was like, oh, that's weird. And I tried to post it again, but then Instagram was like, that's like, don't do that twice. So then they put a hold on our entire account. I couldn't reply to messages for 3 days. Truly put my entire business on hold, and made me think, I think that's, looking back, that is why I think, there's so many, while we do rely on all those things primarily for a lot of our business, like making sure that once people get to the business, that the experience we provide is special, and we're really building like a community and customer service and all that kind of stuff. It just showed how important all of that is, because it felt like everything else was at a standstill for, anyway. I think I put some more, yeah.
So we know you do everything. Like every time it comes up, everyone literally says, "How does she do it all?"
Oh my God.
Like as a fellow mom, or just anybody with a business or anything going on, we're just like worshiping how you.
Oh my gosh! No, I don't know. Yeah.
But my real question is like, how do you tether yourself to that original idea or that original brand, like to stay true to yourself so that it's a part of your life and not work. Like you go on, you turn it off. You're not able to do that when it's your entire life. So
no.
How do you delegate, put your artistic ideas in other people's hands, but still stay true to that original concept?
I think, oh man, I'm such a control freak too.
Yeah.
I think I don't even know how to say it the right way, but I think you really can't turn it off ever. I think I have never found an example of a business that has stayed in business for a very long time and that has maintained a level of consistency where the owner is not hands-on or at least involved. I've seen, like, unfortunately too, like in the industry where breweries have tried to open businesses in like other states and where they couldn't get to that brewery quickly. And I think that just relates kind of across industries too. And those businesses, you know, there are examples of that happening, but I think that's, I'm luckily in a position where I'm very hands-on no matter what. I think forcing myself to hire people has been the most helpful thing. And then, which is a hard thing to talk about too, because a lot of people can't afford to even bring someone else on when they're freelancing or starting their own business. But I've just had to let go of a lot of stuff. I think, like, I mean, for the longest time, I was coming in every single day, and we had these little, like, dinky menu boards with the little letters, like the felt boards. And every single day, I would come in, and sometimes we do 5 beer releases a week. And I would come in, and I would take all these little letters, and I would, like, spray paint them if there were chips on them. And then I would have, like, a little ruler, and I'd make sure, like, all the letters are, like, lined up side by side, and that, okay, all the 5s were, like, right in a row. And if I walked into the brewery and, like, someone else had taken a letter down, it would literally, like, ruin my day. Like, I was like, oh my God, like, that one is, like, not lined up perfect. You know, this is a very niche example. But I think, you know, like, I finally, like, we got someone who had been at the brewery a long time and put her into an operations managerial role. And I told, like, let her take that over. And sometimes I walk in the brewery, or would, you know, we then switched to TVs because the letters, it was not working. And that was a whole other thing too, because I just, like, I hate digital screens and restaurants. So that was a whole other thing too. But yeah, I think, like, it's truly, like, being able to, like, let go of those things and understand what's an emergency and what is, like, I don't know, it's like saying worth my time, but, like, worth, I guess, my, like, creative energy versus, like, what is, you have to make a lot of sacrifices in that way. In that is challenging for me every single day to do that, but it's the only way we've been able to grow at all or do any projects. Is that even the answer? Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I don't know. It's that. I really don't know either too. It's just all day, every day, and I have to try. I have been a lot better about cutting it off, trying to close my computer at like 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. But I think, like, especially owning a business with my husband, like, it's like we have to actively try to not talk about work, and we never are able to do that. And it's not always like like the bad things that happen or the crazy stuff that happen, but yeah, it's hard to, like, not go to a restaurant and then see the drink menu and be like, oh my God, we should do that, or we should do, like, what if we did this, and it just never stops. So. I don't know. Yeah. Oh,
So,
God.
the only reason, or one of the main reasons, I opened With Love as a bigger location with access to more artists with different avenues and, you know, different niche styles of tattooing. At my tiny shop versus this shop, the money we take home as a family hasn't changed. A big part of this, now that I'm a dad and a husband, is to purchase time. Mm-hmm. So if I hire another artist, all it means I get to work a tiny bit less.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think I probably make less money with the more businesses than I did when it was just 2 tides. Because it's more staff, it's more, you know, expense, it's more risk. Yeah. Yeah, that's a big...
How you scaled to allow yourself the time to have,
oh my gosh, yeah,
time for Wade, time for you and James only, time for the 3 of you to go do something now that are you celebrating 6 years in May or
7?
7.
Yeah.
So at 7 years, do you have a goal to have enough hands-off time that you, James, Wade, can go do something together? We talk about that all the time, and I think we're at the point now where I can leave for a week and the business keeps running, and that is, it's hard. I don't really even have time to spend a lot of time reflecting on that, but I think that's huge. And I think it's like delegating tasks and saying no to things. Like this year, one of my, like, mantras, I guess, has been to say no to things, which is also really hard. I think that
it's small stuff. Like I told myself, okay, I'm not going to look at my phone until I'm in the car going to work every morning. So I leave my phone, and always say if it's an emergency, like call me, and I have my phone on loud so I can, if something, but I'm not, we use Slack and we have 80,000 channels on Slack. And so, but I don't wake up first thing and just start scrolling that. I have to just make myself unavailable and say no. And I don't know if that's like the best like creative answer on how to really get there, but saying no is big. Like every single day people are, or if not just saying no, saying I can't do that today, but I can get it to you this day. And I think that's really hard for me because I'm one of those people like I'm a people pleaser. It's like if someone's, I need that menu printed, I need this done, I need, this done right now. I say, okay, I can't do it, or finding someone that can help them. So I can't be there, but you can go to this person. And then if that person makes a mistake and doesn't do it how I would do it, at least the problem was solved, and I could put it on my list like in a week when I have downtime with that person to talk about like, hey, like why don't we try doing it this way instead? Or I noticed that took you 3 hours when it probably would take me 30 minutes. Can I help you like be more efficient? Like that sounds really sassy, but it does. Like it's also because no one's brain will work the way yours does, and trying to like check back in later and go from there. I think that's been.
That's what's allowed you the time.
Yeah, well,
now to say yes later.
Yeah, and I think even just being able to go to bed at night realizing that like we're not going to go out of business because I'm not there for a few hours, and that's really hard.
Yeah.
And I think that is where I think the only thing you have to be okay with stuff not being perfect, and that's a really hard step to get to. Like when I'm not there, we once a week we might get a weird Google review. We don't have a 5-star Google review anymore because I'm not there. But we're not going to go out of business, and 99% of the customers have a great experience there. Or just because I can't go to a photo shoot on a Monday and the beer can has like a little like line of like where someone put their finger in the like frost and I don't like how that looks, like I can still post that to social media and we're not going to go out of business. Like it still looks good. So I think that's like my brain works in that like really far out way and trying to be okay with that.
For 5 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, cool. No, you're good. And I think like the only other example too, I guess, of like trying to like push a little bit past more than like what we sell. I was trying to think of like some fun photos. So we do a yearly beer release called Worms Don't Have Bones. I don't even know where we came up with that name, but it's our Halloween like release every year. We put gummy worms in it. And so we were trying to think of a creative way of like, okay, how do we sell this product or get really excited about it without every single day just saying, hey, here is your beer release. This is what's in it. These are the hops. Come buy it now. And so usually once a year we try to do this weird like fake behind the scenes photo shoot. So we did this shoot, it was hard to see, but it is on our Instagram, of James trying to determine if the worms had bones or not. So we this took us 10 minutes. Mike is such a great photographer that these photos look like we spent hours and had, talent on set and all that kind of stuff. But really it took us 10 minutes. I threw this tray down with gummy worms. He put them on his microscope. We were like cutting into them, just doing all this silly stuff. I like did the whole like science, like do worms have bones, and put it on this tray. And I mean, you can do something like that without, having a fancy photographer too. Like I could have done this with my phone. I chose to, the way I manage my brands, to, hire someone, but anyone could take a photo like that. And then, I try to give an example. So like that photo, in that whole series, that got like 700 likes on Instagram. When Instagram engagement is like a whole other presentation, because that's awful right now. But but then it came time. So like I actually, that took 10 minutes. Then the next week we're like, okay, this was a teaser. It's like, okay, at the end of the week we're going to release the actual beer. And I spent 2 hours carving that pumpkin outside in the heat with my sweater, like getting stuff all over me. I had, the staff ate all the gummy worms because I left them on the desk. And so I got to work, I was like, I don't have gummy worms for my photo shoot. So I had to go to like 2 stores to find the gummy worms because Red and White didn't have them. And then we went into Mike's studio and picked a backdrop and like, let's put it on grass, not just black paper. And, I poured that beer, and then it got half of the engagement, which is like, just, I thought that was like interesting perspective and kind of talks about like that time spent too. Like this is, I think, like what people have like really grown to like you can let go a little bit.
Yeah, I found that we get the most engagement on stuff that I didn't obsess about in iMovie, CapCut, Final Cut, whatever you're using. The stuff that I would just like pan around, I'm tattooing.
Yeah.
And then I look at the camera and I'm like,
And I didn't even want to post, and still, like, I was like posting this. I was like, oh my god, we didn't like put the lighting right. So there's like this one little like white line there. Do I like spend 3 hours photoshopping it out? Like that's where my brain was going. But I just post it, like just post it. It's fine. And so I think that's like the one kind of like takeaway example that I.
not being obsessive.
Yeah. Which is really hard because I'm very obsessive.
How do you,
Yeah.
do that?
I don't know.
I think every small brand owner can relate to being obsessive about the tiny things that no one else is going to see. Like, my brother rented a big sander in here so we could get all the grossness off the floors and try to half-ass refinish them without spending $1 million. But immediately upon turning on, he bashed a hole in the wall
Oh yeah.
and chipped the trim on the paint that I just had a painting guy come in and do. And I was like, we don't have time to deal with that.
No. Yeah.
Casey looks at me and she's like, no one's gonna notice. Nobody cares that there's a little chip in this 120-year-old house, and you guys are in a super old house. You have to ignore the little things because your time is so much.
Oh yeah. I used to repaint all the white trim in the brewery every month, the entire upstairs. And now those are the things to be able to have. I know, y'all. We got 2 more minutes for me to like really like scare everyone. No, I don't know, but I think